ultimately, if you have a business, whether it's online or not, you are investing in lifetime value. But today we really want to talk about an active approach. So let's talk a little bit about customer lifetime value, what and why. I wanted to kind of give you all some ideas and show you that this is something that companies are more and more really actively pursuing and really actively investing in. So a couple examples here. First off, Subaru is a really good example of this. If any of you have seen any of Subaru's marketing recently, they're really hitting hard on the idea that once you buy a Subaru, you keep buying a Subaru. That is really lifetime value. They're putting old Subarus in their commercials with their new Subaru, showing like, hey, when you're done with your old Subaru, you get a new one. If your parents have a Subaru, you buy a Subaru. They really want to keep people in that ecosystem and make sure that, it's not a one and done thing. Once you buy a Subaru, you keep buying Subarus. Another good example that I've seen recently is Lego. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. And this is the type of Lego that I played with as a kid. Well, Lego, in their brilliance, knew this, and they knew that they were really popular in the 90s, and a lot of 90s kids played with them. And now they are targeting us as adults that have full-time jobs. So this one, the Back to the Future, the DeLorean, definitely not for kids. You can even say 18 plus on that. They are targeting users of Legos when they were kids. Now they're when they're adults. Home Alone house, subscription boxes. Definitely these entire business models are built on lifetime value. Now, we're not here to tell you that you should completely redo your business model and turn it into a subscription box, or completely redo your business model, your advertising, to focus on lifetime value. But we do want to highlight the importance of this to businesses, and that it is being looked at from little businesses, small businesses, and it's important for everyone. I'm sure most of you use Google advertising in some capacity, and you probably noticed this, whether you're working with LP or not. CPCs are up, and they've been up for a while. These are the different trend lines. The yellow line's 2020. We obviously know what happened there. A lot of people backed out of advertising. Things got cheaper because less people were bidding on the auction. 2018 and 2019, pretty normal years there. And then 2021 caught back up with those non-pandemic years, fairly normal until the end. At the end, CPCs skyrocketed, which is normal for the holiday season at the end of the year, but hasn't gone back down a whole lot. So we are seeing that investing in digital marketing in general is more expensive, which only increases the need for retaining those current customers and getting them to come back. So we all know it's a lot cheaper to keep a current customer than to get a new one. And so a lot of companies are thinking about this exact same thing right now, which is how do we invest more in the lifetime value of the customers that we already have, because it's getting more and more expensive to get new ones. Let's go ahead and get our panelists involved. What percentage of e-commerce companies are utilizing lifetime value metrics to drive CPA and ROAS?
From an email marketing perspective, I would say not many at all. So customers aren't focused on it. They're not bringing it up too much. And I think that it's the CMS's fault. So, like your Shopify, WooCommerce, they just don't make it easy. And I love Shopify. I'm a big fan, right? So not bashing Shopify, but I was curious. So I checked it out. Shopify, gives instructions for you to calculate your own lifetime value. But, you got to, all in all, pull in like 10 or 12 different data points. It's just difficult, right? And so most business owners that I talk to have not taken that step just yet. That's where, like an ESP like Klaviyo, that's a shout out to you, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Does that calculation for you for every individual, right? Because the CMS has all that data. And so, for Klaviyo to take that data and say, let's put this in a way that, you can just pull a number, makes life so much easier.
I think also it's probably that there's so much information out there that it's like, who do you listen to?
Carly, I'm going to target you with this one a little bit. What does it look like when a company knows their lifetime value? How does that change the way that they can invest in things like non-branded search and shopping?
They're willing to invest more. Just being customer acquisition focused is not necessarily the best approach for advertising long-term, because we know a customer might be more expensive to acquire, but they're going to pay out so much more in the long run. So if we're just looking at that acquisition cost versus what they're going to pay out in the long run, that's not a holistic way to look at things. Right. So if we are looking at that lifetime value, then we are able to more accurately invest in Google Ads and potentially invest more because we know it's actually profitable for us over the lifespan of that client or over the lifespan of that customer.
Kind of going off of that is it allows you, ultimately to be more aggressive, but in all reality, you're almost not being more aggressive. You're just more informed. You know exactly what that data is telling you. So, we do have clients that are willing to take, if they have an ROAS goal, a lot of times it's under a 1. It might even be as low as a 0.25 on getting new customers. So they're spending $4 for every dollar they get in revenue, on that new customer sale, but they know they have done the math and they have the tools necessary to keep that customer. So they're more than willing to take a quote unquote loss. Now it's not actually a loss because of lifetime value. It does also have a halo effect on businesses where other channels will see a lift from this because your acquisition channels that might get you your first customer might not be the channels that keep those customers coming back. Those channels, your other channels that you have access to, that you can see a lift from a strategy that does focus on lifetime value, and that provides the overall lift to your bottom line revenue.
Flip the funnel around and focus on the retention side first. Make sure you have a really strong way of keeping people in the funnel before you start bringing people in, because if you have a bottom at the end of the funnel, it's just going to keep going out. So to your point, focusing, making sure you have a strong retention strategy in place, and then that lifetime value is just going to go along with the acquisition that you're bringing in.
Kind of piggyback on that, when considering pushing for lifetime value, what are the biggest considerations that a company should be looking at?
It's getting more expensive to acquire those new customers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can't put all of your eggs in one basket right now. Your customer's journey is not just on Google Ads. Your customer's journey is not just on Facebook. It's likely spread across multiple platforms. A lot of those platforms are getting more expensive. So diversifying your ad spend and investing heavily in those remarketing efforts to re-engage and drive those customers back to your website is vital.
What product brings people to our site? Where does their journey start? What's their first purchase? But then what purchase makes the most sense following that, right?
There is a lot of digging into every single thing. So I think that's why people don't have a good understanding, because it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for each individual platform. But what I think is really cool about, another shameless plug over here, about LP and all of our partners like Klaviyo, is we work together because the lifetime value journey might be different over here on Google Ads versus Facebook, but they do all cohesively work together, and collaborating across Google Ads versus your email marketing strategy versus your social strategy is what makes everything work cohesively and beautifully, and driving that lifetime value over the long run, and making things more profitable, and making a strategy that is very effective.
What does a successful lifetime value program look like?
I think that you should just start super simply. And what I mean by that are things like cross-sells and upsells, because they're just tremendous opportunities. So as an example, right, we got a client who sells lots and different rugs. Being able to target, okay, who bought a rug but didn't buy a rug pad, which is just a logical, you want a rug pad, right? Rug pads are $10. Right? If I just spent a couple $100 on a rug, $10 purchase makes sense.
Easy.
And it does a couple different things. Number one, it gives that customer a better experience, right? And that's where, again, as the brand, owning that process to say, I know you're going to enjoy my rug more if you also get a rug pad, right? Now you're a more satisfied customer, which means you're more likely to come back. But it's a huge revenue opportunity also, because if you can bring in the $10 additional on every purchase, well, you've upped that lifetime value already. And then cross sells, not immediately like that rug pad. But again, if I buy outdoor equipment from a company, there's a really good chance that I'll buy more outdoor equipment from that company if I like it. Don't hit me up, day 2. Give me a break. Let me do my stuff, be happy with the product in general. But then why wouldn't I follow up and say, hey, you bought this from this category, and we think that you'd also really like this, right? So just, it's kind of funny, but there's a lot you can do that's super complex, but there's so much you can do that's very simple.
Not only that, but just making sure your website is set up to be the best salesperson that it can be. That's the number one thing. A website, if I'm driving traffic via Google Ads and getting all these new customers into the door, and your salesperson is rude and ugly and smelly and not imagine if you're in a physical store and that happened to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to buy from this person. This is a horrible sales rep.
Personally, as a consumer, like if I'm on my phone, I'm like, oh, I want to buy that. And then all of a sudden it doesn't have PayPal, it doesn't have Apple Pay, it doesn't have Shop Pay, and I don't have my wallet on me. It's like, I may not make that sale. So making it super easy.
We've hit on email a lot. Talk a little bit about what we're seeing from SMS.
SMS is, again, another add-on that we're trying to continue to add more features to the platform, because that's where consumers are going. And I think one of the biggest questions is SMS right for my business? But I think the question is like, it's not, is it right for your business? It's how you use it. And we're trying to tell everybody to be extremely smart with SMS. It's an invasive way. You should only be using it in transactional regards, because I love getting a reminder or telling me that my shipment is sent, or I have a subscription coming up. Do you still want to get it? But if they tell you they'd rather have campaigns with email, but have, urgent transactional things through text, use that as well.
I know that a lot of you probably have questions. There are some questions coming in. First one, how can a company quickly get started with LTV with little to no cost?
Free Klaviyo account, turn those 3 automations live. Obviously put at least a little content in there from yourself, from your brand, representing who you are. And then, you've started that journey, and, it doesn't take long to start seeing a benefit pretty quickly.
Another question here. If you're already using email and SMS, what's a quick win?
A couple quick wins that you can have set up there. So abandoned cart, don't send everybody the same abandoned cart. Make sure that you are doing different splits based off of the cart value, whether or not they've bought from you before, how many products are in the cart, making sure that you are thinking about whether or not, if you give them a 20% discount, are they going to expect a 20% discount next time? Does it come on the first email? That would be my number one thing, is like really consider how you can start taking your flows and start personalizing them with different splits.
This customer thank you email that goes off first purchase, and different one for, second and multiple purchases, those often will bring a return. That's just supposed to be just a transactional kind of engagement kind of thing, but people be like, oh, okay, it's a real company. All right, I like them now, it works.
What do you recommend we do to make our emails more enticing so that they aren't instantly marked as spam once seen?
One of the biggest pieces of advice is if you are currently doing an image-based email that you are splicing so that you can do certain links, please stop doing it, because you can build those and drag and drop or do HTML or do something so that it is not just an image that is spliced with hyperlinks.
Have an email from your domain, right? So if you've got a website, it's, at something, have your email represent that. You can get by with a Gmail, but just from a best practice perspective.
How much content do you recommend putting in one email?
It totally depends. Like, if it's a product promotion, it's usually a little smaller. If it's a newsletter, hit it up real big. But if it's like, 3 pages of text in Word, give people
TLDR.
give them a taste, and then have the content living on your site. Test it out. Do a longer version and a shorter version, do an A/B test, see what your customers respond to, because every identical businesses that sell the same stuff, they're going to have a unique customer base. You can't be confident that you're doing the best until you test it out and let the data tell you this is the direction you should go.
Well, great. We really appreciate all the panelists today. Thank you for your brains. Thank you for everything. I hope everything was really